Welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
And we are the Horror Boys. And this isn't any old podcast on this old internet. No, my friends. This is a horror movie review podcast where every week we review a horror media property.
Yep. That is undeniably true. No one can say otherwise.
Yeah.
And it certainly has never been another word.
Yeah. It wasn't the other word at the beginning of when I said we were a horror movie review Ignore the logo under me that says a horror movie podcast. It's supposed to say a horror media podcast.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and by sometimes I mean probably literally only the Chucky series, we're going to talk about the Chucky series.
Yeah. Stick around for, 5 years later when we start doing horror comics.
No. I don't know how to read.
Austin doesn't read, yeah. The only kind of reading I do is comics. Well, manga,
you can read them to me, and then we'll go from there. You read them to me, and I'll take notes.
Tuck you in afterwards.
Huh?
I'll tuck you in afterwards.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Snug as a bug?
little bedtime war stories.
Can you sing me a song, too? That's a tease, because let's start the podcast portion of the podcast. Because today we are talking about Chucky Season 1, Episode 3. We'll also be talking about Episode 4 later, but for now we're talking about Episode 3, I Like to Be Hugged. This episode was directed by Dermot Downes once again. It was written by Sarah Acosta and Nick Ziegler of the Purge TV series. It was also created for TV by Don Mancini, which means he was probably in that writing room. This is his story still, even if he didn't write this specific episode. And I still have to mention him. He's Don Mancini.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he is. Speaking of people I mention every time we talk about Chucky, because he's also been involved since day one, we have our producer, David Kirshner.
Yeah.
Our composer is still Joseph LaDuca. They did not change mid-season. Our director of photography, also still Colin Holt. Our production designer, still Craig Sandals. Our special effects makeup is still done by Francois Dangenis. Our animatronic characters and effects are still done by Tony Gardner and Alterian Inc. And our 5 other returning puppeteers are still Peter H. Avaco, Pamela Ivetta, Eric Beck, Steve Newburn, and Gord Robertson.
Nice.
Yeah. If you want to know more about any of those people, tune into the last episode.
And crew members.
Yeah. Because we're going to have a lot of... going forward this season, at the very least, we will not have a lot of changes there, so you won't get to hear about who they are. We already talked about it.
Yeah, go back to the first episode.
Yeah. Go back to the first episode of our podcast and listen to every episode and come back.
You understand.
Yeah.
Part of the lore.
Yeah. How else will you understand some of our jokes? Like harmonica playing. What could that mean? There's not a lot of it in this show because, it's about kids.
Yeah. Unlike another show that's all about kids playing harmonica. I'm looking at you, what's it called? Yeah, it's gone. It's got Zendaya in it.
Euphoria.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, we referenced Euphoria on the last episode because we said that Perry Middle School is the middle school that leads to Euphoria.
Yeah. And it's true.
I mean, it really is. Because they, honestly, in that last episode, got closer to harmonica playing than they should with 15-year-old characters.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Yeah. Let's start the actual episode, though.
Right, yeah.
We open this episode right where we left off at the last one. We're in Jake's room with Chucky asking him what method of killer he is. Jake is played by Zachary Arthur, and Chucky is voiced by the amazing Brad Dourif. Jake says he doesn't know if he can go through with killing Lexi. Chucky tells him he can do it because Lexi deserves it. Jake asks Chucky, "How did you end up like this?" And then Chucky starts to explain the whole voodoo curse before Jake interrupts him and says, "No, when did you first become a killer?" And then Chucky starts narrating a flashback. Ooh.
Ooh, flashback, yeah.
This is flashbacks about how you could. It starts with like how you could kill a stranger, is what he's saying in the narration, or someone you know, or someone you just want to shut up. At this point, we see like this young girl that is like yelling at a young Charles Lee Ray's birthday party. It's kind of implying that maybe she might be the first kill. She's not, but they're implying that here in this scene.
Yeah.
Young Charles is still played by David Colesmith. We also hear a news report about a mass murderer in Hackensack, as young Charles takes a lot of joy in beating up a piñata and cutting a cake. Kind of seeing some signs of maybe he's not right in the head here. What? I know. It's crazy thought. But I don't know if the man who turned out to be Chucky, the killer doll, he might have not been right in the head. It's a bold claim, but I'm willing to claim it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree.
No, fair enough. We then have our title card in this episode. If this is your first episode of us talking about the Chucky series, you might not know that the title card every episode, it still says Chucky in like the same font, but the font itself is like made up of something different each time.
Yeah.
And this time around, it is made with some
gardening tools.
It's like tools you'd find in a shed. It's both gardening and like construction, because there's like some saws and stuff like that as well. But
yeah,
it's just like generic shed tools.
Tool shed tools.
Yeah.
One might say.
Yeah, tool shed tools, as well as some fire.
Oh. Wonder if that could be significant in some
none of it's
form of fashion.
I don't think any of this would be anything. It's just they randomly chose it for this episode.
Yeah, it's not like they ever thematically choose what they use in the previous episode. Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's never like it's exactly thematically appropriate for that episode specifically. That'd be crazy.
Would be.
Yeah. We head back to the present, where Detective Evans goes to question Miss Fairchild about Jake, but Miss Fairchild won't discuss her student with her. That's the scene.
Yeah.
Detective Evans is played by Rochelle Cassius, and Miss Fairchild is played by Annie Briggs. Yeah, we're done with them now. In the hall, Devin checks in on Jake after Lexi's prank from the last episode.
She's bringing back planking from 2011.
Planking. She's planking dressed like his dead dad, though, still.
Yeah, it's still very insensitive.
Yeah. He also tells Jake that he wishes he could protect him or something. Devin is played by Bjorgvin Anderson. Jake leaves the school as his phone starts to blow up, but we don't know what's blowing up his phone quite yet. Because he's stopped by Miss Fairchild, who tells him she's having a meeting with his aunt and uncle, as well as Lexi's parents, that night to address Lexi's recent actions.
Yeah. Of planking.
Yeah, of planking, as his dead dad.
Yeah.
Also, she wasn't planking at all. She was pranking.
Well, you could debate that she was planking standing up.
She was very rigid, because she was pretending to be a dead body, getting electrocuted.
Yeah.
I lost my place because of that. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. It's a funny joke.
We head to see Lexi going for a run in a blue hoodie. Lexi is played by Olivia Allen Lind. And as that's happening, we hear some more narration of Chucky talking about getting to know your victim and getting them alone. That's kind of the central, like the theming of this episode. We'll have Chucky come in and narrate every once in a while, but this is all from the stuff he was telling him at the beginning. Before we, like, during that flashback, basically, is when this is supposed to, I think, been happening, the stuff we're hearing here. Because this show really likes to mess around with where things are exactly happening in time and what's actually happening it makes a lot of sense when you're watching the show, but as I'm trying to explain it narratively written down, it's a little hard to explain sometimes. But yeah, we then see that Jake's phone notifications are a tracking app. Chucky continues to narrate about finding the right moment to kill someone, before Jake sees her blue hoodie and runs up, about to stab her, but it's actually Junior, who doesn't see the knife, but still thinks Jake's a freak for following him.
Which is valid.
Yeah. Junior is played by Tio Briones. Chucky says the moment isn't always right, but the right moment always comes. At Lexi's house, we see Junior return her phone, so he had her phone. We don't get an explanation for why they're wearing the same hoodie, but I guess just a couple goals, I guess.
Yeah.
Junior tells her she went way too far and crossed the line with her costume, and now she needs to apologize to Jake.
Because he's getting weird and stalking him for some reason.
Yeah. She says there's no way, and Junior leaves upset.
Yeah.
Inside,
he doesn't know what he'll do.
Yeah, he doesn't. He could go crazy, he might have saw the knife. I don't think he did, because I think his reaction would have been a lot worse if he had saw that knife. It's kind of a miracle he didn't see the knife, but, he didn't see the knife.
Yeah.
Inside, Lexi finds her parents trying to calm down Caroline, who's having a meltdown and saying no to everything that they try to give her. Lexi asks her what she wants, and Caroline says she wants Chucky because he's her best friend, before repeating "I want Chucky" a couple times.
Yeah.
Mare Cross which is her mother, is played by Barbara Allen Woods, who is also just her mother. Just a fun fact, so if this is the first time you're here, I said it last time, but it's a fun fact that the actress who's playing her mother is also her real mother. That's just kind of crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. Mr. Cross, who I believe in the next episode we find out his name is Nathan Cross, but I'll refer to him as Mr. Cross in my notes because that's what his IMDb credit was on the first episode. So that's what I've established his name as in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Cross is played by Michael Theriault, and Caroline is played by Corinna Batrick. We head to the Wheelers' garage, where Jake is testing out tools as potential murder weapons. See, you remember the tools? We told you they'd come up.
And he settles on a billhook blade.
Oh, look at my boy here knowing blade names.
Yeah, I like knives.
Lexi then comes up. She also, I guess, comes up on the scene, but she comes over, and after some being Lexi, she gets around to the most labored and half-hearted apology, ending with explaining why he deserved it after the talent show. This whole scene goes on for longer than that, and it's not a bad scene. I'm not going to write down every line they said, because none of it was, specifically funny or anything, but it did really fit their characters. It did help build the scene in the moment. It was a good scene, but that's it for what you need to know about that scene. But that part of the scene, because she adds that people underestimate her humility, and tells him because she apologized in an act of charity, he should do something in return, and that something is to give her Chucky for her little sister.
Yep. And
Jake says no.
Because, surprise, guys, saying an apology is not a favor. That's just something you should do.
What?
If you're apologizing, it doesn't mean you get something in return.
I don't know. She did come all the way over there, and that's why Lexi leaves pissed, because, she did come all the way over to apologize, and he repaid her like this. We then head to Jake's room, where he stabs a sculpture of Lexi that he's made, apparently.
Until Mike's Red Hots fall out of it.
I don't know if that's what I thought they were beads, but fair.
Yeah, they were red beads. Yeah, but when I saw them, I was like, are those Mike's Red Hots? What a weird choice.
Yeah, they come spilling out. Chucky tells him he had the chance to kill her, but he choked, but not in the good way. Which, classic Chucky line. Haha, get it? Because choking is also a way to kill someone.
Because he's, the Lakeshore Strangler.
That's the next episode. We can't make that joke yet.
Oh.
Chucky tells him it's called completion anxiety, and a fun callback to Curse of Chucky. Jake says he wanted to, but he just couldn't, especially with the risk because of, his dad and Annie's deaths. He's already kind of got a suspicion on him. Chucky says he'll do the dirty work again and tells Jake to give Lexi what she wants. We head to the Evans house, where Detective Evans tells Devin to stay away from Jake because he's trouble. That's the scene. It goes on for a while. That scene, not as good. It's okay. It's not like a oh my gosh, the scene takes me out of it. But the last scene, it's some fun Jake and Lexi stuff, and Lexi's a really fun jerk character. She's fun to watch be a jerk. This scene just kind of okay, cool. His mom doesn't like Jake. Yeah. And fair, to be fair. Fair for her not to like Jake at this point. He is very suspicious. He looks kind of guilty.
Yeah.
We come back to Jake, who shows up to the Cross Mansion to give Chucky to Lexi for Caroline. Caroline is really happy, and Lexi seems actually touched. It's kind of our first moment of kind of seeing a different side of Lexi, maybe a little bit. Oh.
Is she not one-dimensional bully character?
Crazy. Spoiler, she's not. Before adding, though, because she is still Lexi, that they're still not friends. And she doesn't want him to get any ideas. Later, we see Caroline playing with Chucky and giving him a hug. When in a Good Guy Doll voice, he says, "I like to be hugged." Good Guy Doll voice is Nick A. Fisher. Yeah. Mare Cross asks if she can have a hug from Chucky, and Caroline tells her, she lets her, not tells her. Read the wrong word entirely.
Yeah.
She lets her. Then after a whisper, Caroline tells everyone that Chucky wants to hug Lexi. Caroline also hugs Lexi while Chucky's hugging her, as she says she likes to be hugged in a really sweet moment.
Yeah.
That really makes my heart really
the
happy.
Parents marvel on and disbelief.
And even Lexi's because Lexi's been very open about throughout this how she finds Jake's doll creepy, but then this doll is getting her. Once again, they never say it directly, but her sister, who's almost definitely on the spectrum, who doesn't like physical touch, doesn't is willing to hug her sister because of Chucky. It's a big moment for her, and it's once again the moment where we see the heart of Lexi. She really does care about her sister. Yeah, that's it. That's my analysis of that scene. We'll move on now. I have to find my spot though.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yes. Chucky narrates saying, "Every killer needs a good cover, and he likes to hide behind an innocent face." Later, Lexi leaves Caroline and Chucky in the living room watching the news, which was at Chucky's request, because life's short, I believe, or something like that is what Caroline says. Chucky said. Also, a fun little just moment of showing the weird disconnect of how screwed up this family is Lexi wondered why she doesn't want to watch what's it called? The Cowboy Westworld, which is not a show that a 6-year-old should be watching. But that's just the accepted thing that her family, you're not watching Westworld right now, which is such a fits this character's though of she probably does have just that free reign of her sister probably is just watching Westworld even though she has no right to be watching that at her age.
Yeah, when she's 7.
Yeah, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. I don't know if they ever actually tell us exactly, but she's a young kid. Definitely not old. Lexi probably shouldn't be watching Westworld because she's not 17, which I think is the official age you have to be to watch that on your own. Just like this show. You can't
17.
watch this show if you're not old enough to watch a TVMA. Stop watching it, kids. If you're listening to our podcast, but also you're not. I know the analytics.
Yeah.
How's it going, fellow 50-year-olds?
What's up?
Yeah. How's it going? Can you tell your kids to watch us? Because they're actually in our demographic, but, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she leaves her to with Chucky watching the news. After she leaves, though, Chucky really quickly gets up to follow her, but ends up stopping in his tracks when Lexi lets friends in for a party. The friends include Junior, Devin, and Oliver, who brings her favorite alcohol. Oliver is played by Avery Estevez. There's also other kids there, but none of them have names, and therefore, I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Junior asks Lexi why Chucky's there, and she tells him that Jake had given it to her to give to Caroline. And she also tells him that she apologized to Jake. Which, technically true.
Yeah.
Lexi gives Chucky back to Caroline and tells her to promise not to tell their parents about her party. Then we head to the meeting at the about the bullying, where Bree Wheeler shows up later than everyone else. Because Bree Wheeler has a secret, if you don't remember. Chucky said that.
Yeah.
What is that secret? We don't know. Logan Wheeler is played by Devin Sawa. And Bree Wheeler is played by Alexa Doig? It's Doig. I'm not sure how that name is pronounced.
We all know her as a girl from Jason X.
That is true. She is a Horror Boy alum for that. But, we don't bring up Horror Boy alums when it's their second time in a exact franchise that we're back-to-back in, so I wouldn't have mentioned that here. Because she was also just in the last time we talked about this show.
Yeah, but, Jason X.
Yeah, Jason X is a great movie. It's a great movie. I do love Jason X. Principal McVeigh is also in this scene, and she is played still by Jana Peck, because they don't, randomly change someone in the middle of the season. That would be a little weird. It has happened in television, but not in this one. Yeah. Principal McVeigh starts by saying that safety is important and bullying isn't acceptable. Mayor Cross agrees. Miss Fairchild says that Lexi has been bullying Jake. Mayor Cross says Lexi's not the bully. If anything, she's the victim, thanks to the talent show incident. Miss Fairchild says this has gone beyond typical name-calling. And then Mayor and Mr. Cross try to leave, basically saying this is, baseless accusations.
A waste of time.
Yeah. But Miss Fairchild plays a video from Halloween. They're confused until Logan points out that she's dressed as his dead brother, Lucas.
Yeah. And Logan is pissed.
Yeah, this is kind of the first moment where we kind of see that maybe the Logan and Lucas don't fall, they can maybe are, you can tell they're brothers here. They both have maybe a little bit of an anger issue. Lucas definitely had it worse, but doesn't look like Logan has his anger fully under control.
No.
This finally shuts up the Crosses, because they kind of are making excuses the whole time until this point when they realize, oh crap.
Yeah.
Principal McVeigh sends them home to talk to their kids. I mean, the Crosses don't go home. They have, tickets to the play, but, that's what Principal McVeigh tells them to do. We now head to Jake visiting his parents' graves, where he tells his mom it didn't get better and tells his dad he's sorry he's not who he wanted him to be. Yeah. We head back to the Cross Mansion, where Lexi puts Caroline to bed by singing Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper.
Yeah.
Which, a little bit of a weird song choice for a 15-year-old in 2021 that's the song she thinks of when I want to sing a song for a kid.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like maybe it was written by, 50-year-old Don Mancini for this part rather than...
Yeah.
Maybe even a song he liked.
Loves horror.
Yeah. She also tucks Caroline and Chucky snugly into bed. After...
Snug as a bug in a rug.
Yes. After Lexi and Junior leave, because Junior was in that scene, just he didn't matter until this point when he's leaving.
Yeah.
They leave. Chucky tells Caroline he's going to kill her sister and asks if she wants to come. She says she's sleepy, and he says you snooze, you lose. But he can't leave because he's tucked in too tight. So he cuts his way free. It's a funny little scene. This show's great. I mean, I don't know how to say. Like, I don't want to explain how every scene's good, but most scenes in this show are really good. The characters are really well written. Spoiler, and the writing's good. Like, it's a fun show.
Yeah, this show is, and I'm sorry that I have to use this word, but definitely like a binge-worthy show.
I do hate you for it.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. But it's a show you can't help but binge because every scene is like pretty fun and enjoyable, and it always leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It's fair.
I feel like really gross that binge-worthy is the highest praise I can give a show at this point in time. Like, yeah, I would absolutely binge it, but I would absolutely binge this show.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, legitimately.
Yeah, no, it's a great show. I love this show. I'm very happy we're covering it. I'm happy I changed up the schedule so we could cover it. Because I think it deserves the same amount of coverage as the rest of the Chucky franchise does. Because it's just as good, if not better, than some of the low points. And it is definitely better than the low points, obviously.
Yeah,
but,
undoubtedly.
Yeah. We head to the silent with headphones dance party, like a silent disco. It's a thing people actually do. So, like, yeah, silent rave also heard, be a name for it.
I have never seen one of these until just now, and I was so like, I mean, it's smart, but I don't think this is a thing that people do.
It is actually, though. It actually is a thing that people actually do. I have heard of this loosely, and you can look it up. It exists. I don't know how popular it is, but I've heard of it as a thing.
Yeah, definitely feels like something high schoolers would do.
It's smart. I mean, because you're not gonna. Oh, she's babysitting. Cool. Well, we can still have a dance party without having to worry about waking up her sister.
Yeah.
And it also, spoiler, really helps other points of the plot later. So yeah, they're dancing. Lexi dances with Oliver as Junior kind of looks on angry.
Yeah.
Until a song that she loves comes on, and she goes to Junior and makes him dance with her, even though he doesn't dance.
Yeah.
Showing, though, that she does actually still care about Junior. Because when it was time for a song she really likes, she wanted to dance with Junior.
Yeah, not Oliver.
Yeah. He dips her, saying, "I won't let you fall," which is a callback to the last episode. We see a POV shot following Lexi as she goes to get a drink in the kitchen. And it is not Chucky, though. It is actually Caroline, because Chucky's gone. And she tells Lexi that he said he was going to kill you. Lexi is very shocked by that and asks why Caroline would say that. And, Caroline, she's in a Child's Play / Chucky show, so she has to, say the classic, "I didn't say it, Chucky said it" line that every, young kid poor kids had to say when people don't believe them when they just tell the truth. We then head to a flashback to young Charles, who watches as his dad is stabbed by the mass murderer from the radio earlier. His dad is played by Andrew Butcher, who did stunts in Jigsaw and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. The mass murderer is played by Christopher Cordell, who's done stunts in Pontypool, Survival of the Dead, Splice, The Incredible Hulk, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Carrie, and most importantly, Gooby. You not know about Gooby? It's like the really...
I feel like I know about Gooby.
There was there's the YouTubers we both like watching have done they did a group watch of that movie because it was so bad.
Gooby. Is that like the Weird Irish
bear movie? Yeah.
Bear, yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping you just remember it off the top without me having to explain it, but yeah, Gooby.
I know. I think it's better for the audience that you did explain Gooby.
Okay, yeah. Stars Robbie Coltrane as the voice of the bear. If you want to go watch that, don't. It's terrible from my understanding.
Yeah.
And then Charles and his mom hide in a closet. All of that, what I just said there, kind of happens as we cut back and forth for a while. Initially, I was going to then just do all of the scene, but I will actually end the last portion of this flashback when it happens in the actual moment. But yeah, so they hide in a closet from the murderer. Chucky stabs who he thinks is Lexi, but it's Oliver. Chucky doesn't care and then repeatedly stabs him to death as he screams, but no one can hear him because of the headphones. Woo!
Yeah.
Silent disco.
Silent murder.
Yeah. Lexi goes to tell Caroline she can't find Chucky, but Caroline's already fell asleep, so Lexi goes to her room to smoke a joint. Yeah.
Yeah.
She sees Chucky's shoes behind a curtain, but it's just his shoes. Because he runs up behind her and hops on her back. She drops the joint. They struggle around the room. She ends up throwing him and her back into a window, breaking it open, which causes a burst of wind to come inside, pushing hitting the fire of the joint to start a fire in the room.
Yeah. Now everybody in the house is gonna get high.
Yeah. Chucky tries to choke her with her necklace. When she sees it's Chucky, she freaks out more and throws him off as the fire continues to spread. In an absolutely beautiful shot as this fire surrounds the Chucky puppet. It is so pretty. This shot of him as he says this next line, and because he's just covered, he's surrounded by the fire. Chucky says, "This is for Jake," and then I think calls her a curse word that's so bad that they bleep it.
Yeah, they straight up bleep.
And it's from my saying,
TVMA show.
It's bleeped on the Blu-ray as well. It is just not said. I believe if you want to do your own figuring out by reading the lips, I believe it's the that word that the Australians like to throw around without any issue. Yeah. But apparently that's too far for them, even on the Blu-ray, to be able to show it. I don't have the Blu-ray, but I've heard that.
Maybe it's not bleeped in the Australian version.
Maybe. But apparently he calls her a very nasty word. And yeah, it's bleeped. Even though, all the F words, all that, they don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
But Sci-Fi drew the line at that line. Even to the point where on the future releases of it, it still can't be seen.
Yeah.
He starts coming towards her with a knife. The fire starts spreading to the rest of the house as everyone is just obliviously dancing. It's a really cool shot of this fireball coming out of the door, hitting the banister, causing it to go
spreading
on fire.
All around.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. And everyone downstairs is just dancing their hearts out because they don't know.
Yeah.
We cut back to Chucky, who's laughing maniacally, as we cut to Jake, hearing the sirens and saying he's sorry repeatedly to his parents' graves, as we pan over to see that Charles Lee Ray's grave is also in that
same graveyard.
Which makes sense, because we do know he was buried in Hackensack. That was established in Bride of Chucky.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to flip back to my other page, because I initially didn't have this written this way, but now we're going to go back to that last of the flashback scene. So when the killer opens the closet, he finds Charles and his dead mom, as Charles says he helped. The killer says he's got guts and helps him clean his knife before he leaves.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah,
his first kill was his mom. Whoa.
Chucky's mother.
Yeah, I did set you up for that one.
Thank you. Also, I forgot to mention this when they hid in the closet, but his mom is still played by Marissa McIntyre.
And will no longer be played.
No, now she's dead.
Yeah.
Then Chucky says, to answer your question, Jake, some killers are made, but the best are born.
Oh. Yeah.
Sometime we just need a little push. And then the closing shot is Chucky laughing in the fire.
Which does, ultimately set Jake up as... He's not a real killer. Because he wasn't born. Otherwise, he would not have had any hesitation about killing Lexi. Fair.
Or this could be Chucky saying that, hey, he needs the push,
I feel like he had a push already.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, quick thoughts on that episode. It's a good episode. It's some cool stunts. It's well written like every other episode. I don't have anything extra to say about that specific episode. I really like it because I really like all the episodes of this show.
Yeah, that's fair. It is a really solid episode. And I will say, This is definitely like one of the best / worst cliffhangers to leave a like episode on.
It's
And
fair.
so I think in terms of like the writing style, it leaves you wanting more, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what happened to Lexi? Surely she's dead.
It's true. And at that
So
point,
let's talk about episode 4.
yeah, at that point, you probably still want her to be dead.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing, my closing thoughts of that episode that I forgot to mention. Once again, huge praise. I love that scene where they made me earlier in this care about Lexi when like they had that hug. Like that's that first moment where you kind of feel like the heart of Lexi and like you see how much she loves her sister. And then they also have the doubling down on it when she sings to her. Like it's cool to start seeing that. Yeah. So now let's talk about the next episode, which is episode 4. Just Let Go. This episode was directed by Leslie Liebman of a lot of music videos, like going back to like the 80s, before then transitioning into TV, a lot of that as well, including one of the more high-profile shows, The Vampire Diaries, which was actually referenced in like episode 1 or 2. So that's kind of cool, I guess. And it's this episode was written by Kim Garland and Mallory Westfall, who Mallory Westfall worked on Channel Zero and Fear the Walking Dead. All other crew are the same as the last episode. So all those cool people I mentioned, they still worked on this episode. It's pretty cool.
There you go.
We open the episode with Jake going to the hospital. I'll also say here, just a huge shout out to Craig Sandals for the design of the hospital. I love it. The man deserves a lot of credit. We've credited him in at least one time on each podcast, specifically mentioning a specific thing he did on every time he's been involved. He does a really good job of what he does. But I really love just the way this hospital looks, the way like they chose to use the lighting in it and stuff, and I like it. It's really pretty, which is not something you typically think of for a hospital, but they make it work really well. It's kind of got like almost like a futuristic aesthetic at times, which is weird, but works.
Yeah, that like green lighting definitely.
Especially
somehow
the ICU especially looks really futuristic looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. Huge credit to Craig Sandals. He's probably my favorite production designer because he's the first one I've noticed how cool stuff he did. Jake walks by Oliver's crying parents as they get the news of his death. Jake doesn't know that yet, but he does see them crying. But just in case we didn't know who they were, we, the audience, get flashes of Jake getting killed. He walks by Junior's room, then by Devin's room. They share some smiles and waves. He then heads by the ICU, where Caroline is. She's there. He's startled by a still alive and relatively fine, honestly, it seems, Lexi. Which that's kind of crazy that she doesn't like have any lung damage or anything when everyone else did. She seems fine. No one's caring about her right now. She's fine. Lexi's completely fine. That was a fake out. They wanted you to think she was going to get killed, and there's no answer to why she didn't, just because they didn't want her to. And that's, honestly, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
She's a good character who, spoiler, gets even better as the show goes on.
Oh my gosh. No, it's not possible.
She tells him that Chucky did it and asks if Chucky killed Jake's dad too. Jake nods his head. She asks when he found out, and he tells her at the talent show. Jake doesn't think the fire was enough to kill Chucky, so he has to find him and make sure he's dead, because it's not. If not, he'll come after Lexi again. Lexi wants to know why. Jake says because, he told him to. She's understandably pissed and heads to tell her parents, but Jake tells her they won't believe her, and if they did, they'd end up locked up or dead. Because that's what happens to anyone who knows about Chucky.
True, historically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. He tells her it's just us. He knows she's pissed at him, but at least she's alive. She tells him that Oliver isn't, and therefore Jake did kill someone at the party. She tells him to stay away, and so Jake leaves and goes to sit down in the hallway. We then have a scene where Detective Evans checks in on Devin and asks him if Jake was at the party. He says no. She then asks, kind of curiously though, about Chucky, if he was there. And, he says yes and wonders why. And then they kind of argue for a little bit more about Jake before she tells him that Oliver was stabbed to death.
Yeah.
No. We then get our title card. This time made of scalpels and syringes.
Ooh.
Oh. Lexi asks her parents if Caroline's going to be okay. Her mom says, suddenly you care about your sister's well-being. Mayor Cross says her sister's in the ICU. A boy is dead, and their historical monument of a home is partially destroyed. Lexi tries to blame Jake, and her mom says Jake wasn't even there and to leave him alone. And her and Mr. Cross leave as Lexi starts to tear up in the hall. Because, it's that classic, Chucky moment of, ruining relationships by his actions as well. He doesn't just, kill people. He also ruins your life if he doesn't kill you.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. We see a POV shot of a ball rolling over towards Jake before a smiling mother, presumably, as we find out later, comes over to pick it up. Devin then comes over and talks to Jake. Jake apologizes for what happened, and Devin says, at first he was disappointed he wasn't there, but he's just happy he wasn't there in the end because now he was safe.
Yeah.
Devin then tells him about Oliver being stabbed to death. And he tells him to be careful around his mom because she asked about Chucky being at the party. He says she has ideas about Jake because she doesn't know him like he does.
Yeah. Which is barely, apparently, in his conversation earlier with his mom.
Yeah. He's lying to his mom. Even though also, the actual truth is they don't really know each other that well yet, but, whatever. But it does seem like, maybe there's something there. Which I'm sure is I'm sure those, Shudder commenters are really mad.
Yeah, almost certainly.
How dare Don Mancini and the Chucky franchise get inclusive? They would never have done that starting back in 98. Never. They could never do that.
No way.
That would be crazy. Oh, wait.
Are you telling me an openly gay man wrote gay characters into a show? That's crazy.
Yeah, even back in 98 when it wasn't a thing to do yet. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. What?
I know.
What is the word coming to?
A good place, thankfully. Finally.
Yeah. it senses.
Yeah. Lost my place. Because I had to just get mad at that. Really like that one comment on Shudder that I saw.
Yeah, Jake was talking to...
Yeah, I know where we left off. I just gotta find it in my notes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair.
There we go. We head to Bree and Logan, where Bree seems to want to tell Logan something important before he gets angry at the coffee machine, so she doesn't end up telling him anything. Mara and Mr. Cross walk by. Bree asks how Caroline is doing. Mara Cross says she's stabilized, but is being kept on a ventilator. Mara Cross asks how Junior is, and Bree says he's fine, but Logan says he's not fine, and he won't be able to run for at least a month due to his lung damage. That's a big deal to Logan. Bree tries to stop him, but Mara Cross says, he's allowed to be upset at this horrible, tragic accident. Logan questions accident and says they let Lexi have free reign, and this was bound to happen. Around this point, Detective Evans starts to walk up. Mara Cross says, we don't know how the fire started. There were a lot of kids there, including Junior. Bree says he would never have done anything that irresponsible. Mayor Cross says she never said he did anything, but he is under a lot of pressure and might be acting out due to the amount of stress. Logan then curses at her. She says she doesn't deserve that. Her daughter is in the ICU right now. And Logan says, and the Hayden son is dead thanks to your negligence. Mayor Cross retorts, none of you knew where your kids were, but I'm the negligent one? I'm the only bad parent here? Bree says no one is saying that. Mayor Cross brings up Devin's Crime Podcast. Logan asks, are you going to blame everyone but yourselves? Mr. Cross says to back off. Logan says, look who decided to show up. You have to be considered to be considered a stay-at-home dad, you got to actually parent your kids. Mr. Cross snaps back, forcing your kid to relive your glory days is not parenting. It's pathetic. Logan then punches Mr. Cross. I really love that back and forth and all that. I just went like it's a really fun scene. It's nice to see like these parent characters are also really fleshed out. Mayor Cross says that was assault and she wants to press charges. Logan says he does too, and Detective Evans tells them both to shut up. She tells them that Oliver was murdered and to make themselves and their children available for questioning. So yeah, that's the end of the scene. I guess they're not pressing charges, which is probably for the better.
Yeah.
To be fair, even in that scene, Mr. Cross didn't seem like he wanted to press charges. It was only the mayor.
Yeah.
Lexi wakes up a sleeping Jake and tells him she doesn't want to be scared about Chucky for the rest of her life, and he's all she's got. So they head off to the mayoral mansion. That's that scene. They sneak in after a cop does his rounds. Back at the hospital, Logan makes sure Junior likes cross country and isn't just doing it for him, kind of. I mean, he gets him to say that, even though it definitely seems like Junior might still only be saying that for him. And then Junior gets prepped for a
bronchoscopy?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I think you threw an extra E in there. I think it's just bronchoscopy.
Bronchoscopy?
Yeah, bronchoscopy. We head to Devin, who looks up Chucky Good Guy Doll Homicide. We see pictures of Tiffany Valentine and Nika Pierce. Before he reads an article on the urban legend of Charles Lee Ray and Chucky. He reads about how Charles was put in a boys' home in South Jersey. We get a flashback to 1972, where Charles Lee Ray is telling the story of Peter Pan to 3 kids. The kids are Nibs, Curly, and Toodles, is what they're credited as. I think that might be their, Lost Boy names, not their actual names.
You telling me somebody didn't name their child Toodles?
To be fair, we know specifically Toodles is not his name. But not yet. We don't know that yet.
We will find out his name later.
Yeah. The house mother says Charles is so good with kids before reprimanding Toodles for saying a curse word. 14-year-old Charles is played by, Tyler Barish. Nibs is played by Rain Janjua?
Huh?
Janjua. So it's either Janjua or Hanhua? Because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Curly is played by Mason Ward. And Toodles is played by Ivano DiCaro. The house mother is played by Sarah Evans.
It's a hard one to pronounce. So that's a hard one to pronounce.
Oh, Sarah Evans? Yeah, it's pretty hard. Charles accidentally brings in mud after getting the janitor... he brings in mud, angering the janitor, who gets Charles' only shoes wet. The janitor is played by Michael Scholar Jr. We cut back to Devin saying Charles stayed quiet until one violent incident. And then we cut back immediately to the flashback. Where Charles marches the kids off to find Captain Hook. They find the janitor with his throat slit and his hand replaced by a hook. Curly and Nibs run away, but Toodles stays and pokes the maggot-filled wound with a stick. Charles says, "You got guts, kid." Before this really weird editing choice of putting the doll face over Charles. We know it's Charles. Like, it looks weird. It's stupid.
It is a little bit silly.
Yeah. It's one of the few times I'll say that about this show. It's like, that's just stupid. I don't know. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, we cut back to Jake and Lexi. Jake takes a pill. Lexi asks if it's Zoloft. He says no, it's Effexor. She asks if it's for anxiety or depression. He says both. Fun fact, I'm on Zoloft now.
Oh.
So, but I'm not. We're on the same drive. It'd be cooler if he was on. It was cooler if the line was switched, because then I'd be like Jake.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to get on Effexor, Austin.
Apparently, that's what helps if you want to, fight Chucky.
Yeah. And anxiety and depression.
But also, I feel no problem saying that because, hey, if you need help with, your depression, anxiety, or whatever, go talk to your doctor. Getting help is good.
Yeah.
We need to break that stigma on mental health issues as a society.
True.
So it's cool that, a character in this just has it. And it's not really, it's not really drawn into. There's 2 points so far we've seen it, and I don't really remember other times it comes up. It's just kind of part of his character.
Yeah.
They grab some debris as weapons. Jake asks if she's okay, and she responds seriously. Lexi makes Jake go up the stairs first to head to her room. On the stairs, she tells Jake to be careful. She stops to look at pictures. Jake asks if she's okay, and she tells him to stop asking her that. He says he's just trying to be nice, and she says, "But you're not nice, Jake. This all happened because of you." A tear comes down her cheek as she says this. She also asks if he's happy now. He responds that he's not happy. He can't remember the last time he was. She says, "Me neither." Just fun, nice little fun scene here. Not depressing at all. Not seeing that both these characters are extremely broken.
Yeah.
Also like Lexi, the character we're supposed to still kind of feel like we're supposed to hate at this point. Is saying this really true point and crying about how, her life has been ruined by Jake, and she's not wrong. He did. Her house burned down. Oliver is dead, and her sister could die for all she knows because of Jake.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they continue up the stairs after they hear some wood creaking, breaking noises. She asks him, "Did you really want me to die? Did it really get that bad?" He says, "Yeah, it did." She asks why he didn't say something. He says he didn't think it would make a difference. She says she wasn't a mind reader. And he says, usually when you treat people like obscenity, they get upset. She says he wasn't upset. He went straight to wanting to kill her. He says, you dressed up as my dead dad in front of everyone. She says, "I know, but still, there's got to be something really wrong with you to want to kill someone." He interrupts her, "But I didn't want to kill somebody, all right? I wanted to kill you, because you're a bad person who treats people bad, and he wanted her to die, not because there's something wrong with him, but because she deserves it." It's a little harsh, but, fair enough.
Yeah. It's, whew.
Yeah. And
this is a very hard-hitting conversation.
Yeah. And,
neither of them are in the right.
No, they're both bad people at this point, for sure. And
Yeah.
she's also kind of getting a little scared by him, because he's definitely getting really angry and up in her face about this. So she backs away from him, breaking through the banister behind her. Jake grabs onto her, saving her from falling. Yeah. Then we get this cool half-melted Chucky that comes out. and tries to convince Jake to just let go. The world would be better off without her. Just one less vicious Karen on training wheels. Lexi begs Jake not to drop her. Jake says, "No, I'm not like you, Chucky. I'm not a killer," and slowly starts to pull her up. Chucky stabs at her feet, but he ends up stopping when he hears Detective Peyton, who is played by Travis Milne. Detective Peyton takes Chucky, Lexi, and Jake back to the hospital. Yeah, any thoughts on that scene? I'll make sure I give you a chance to talk. Any thoughts on him saving her? Is that cool? Are you cool with him saving her? Did you want him to let her die? What did you want? What was your thoughts?
I don't know. I thought that after the conversation that they had, that I didn't want her to die.
Yeah, no. Spoiler. This is kind of the beginning of her redemption arc, hypothetically, maybe.
A lot of character development, and
it would be a shame to just throw that away by having him snap and be the killer.
Yeah. Have both of their character development just thrown right in the garbage.
Destroyed.
Yeah, nope, Jake is a killer. Whoopsies.
Yep, oops.
And Lexi died because she sucked. It was irredeemable.
Once back at the hospital, Detective Peyton leaves them in the back and takes Chucky inside. Detective Evans lets them out, but wants to talk to Jake privately. Lexi thanks him for not letting go and runs off after Detective Peyton and Chucky. Detective Peyton sets Chucky down to get a snack out of a vending machine, but it's not cooperating. Lexi gets to her sister in the ICU before Peyton gets up there. She sees Chucky run past outside and goes after him, but she finds Devin instead, who wants to tell Jake something crazy about Chucky, and she wants to know, and he tells her to come to his room to talk. They walk past the mom from earlier, holding her child, who is what Lexi thought she saw run by, because we find out that Chucky is still with Detective Peyton, sitting right next to him.
Yeah.
Yep. Detective Peyton takes Chucky to Caroline's room, and he drips donut crumbs on him before turning to take one of Caroline's brownies. The donut was also one of hers. He also took a bite of her cookie. She's taking all Caroline's food. I mean, she's in she's not eating right now, but still, it's still kind of rude.
Man's a glutton.
Yeah. Chucky takes a scalpel and throws it in his back. Peyton falls back, sending it deeper, severing his spinal cord.
Yeah.
Chucky then
debatably puncturing his heart as well.
Maybe?
Because it, goes up into him. It doesn't come out the other side, but...
Yeah.
I mean, a scalpel is pretty long. That would pierce a lot of stuff.
Yeah, maybe somehow miraculously it went right in between organs.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so.
It doesn't
really
matter because this man's not alive for long. Because
No,
Chucky then stabs him with some syringes. Chucky says from the minute he saw him, he couldn't stand his face. Then he looks at his reflection and says, "I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting," because he's all melted and gross looking.
Yeah.
Before getting a second handful and repeatedly stabbing him and maybe injecting some of it within him because he causes some sort of reaction here because Peyton bleeds from all of his orifices, including his fingernails. It's crazy.
Yeah, including things that aren't orifices.
Yeah. It looks cool. I mean, I don't know if it's realistic. Yeah. Maybe it is. Maybe there's a certain drug combination that could do that to someone. I don't know.
Makes you bleed from your nail beds.
I mean, it's possible. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not
guess,
a scientist.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist.
Makes your nails peel up and you start
It looks
bleeding.
Cool, okay?
It does.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's bleeding from everywhere. That's crazy.
Yeah. We head back to the flashback where Chucky gives Toodles the janitor's severed hand as a gift. Toodles stashes it under his bed. The house mother asks, "What are you doing up?" Eddie Caputo, go to sleep. It's the origin of Eddie Caputo. Remember him? He was kind of a throwaway character in the first movie, but
he was Chucky's partner before he killed him.
Yeah. It was his getaway driver at the very least. Who knows how close they were, because we also know that Chucky was also running around with Tiffany at that time, apparently, and also had time to kidnapped Nika's mom or something. I don't know. It gets a little dicey there.
He's got a very checkered past.
He had a very crazy, like, couple weeks there, especially. You know, he kidnaps, Nika's mom, and then somehow Eddie Caputo picks him up from there as his getaway driver from his... don't think about that reveal, because it really kind of breaks. Which is a shame, because that's a really good movie, other than that one little part of it. But yeah, so it's Eddie Caputo. That's Toodles. And now we'll never see him again. But, hey.
Yeah.
Charles Lee Ray, that's where he met him. Also, Charles sneaks out of the house, the boy's house, to go commit crime for, this is 72, so for the next 16 years, he's going to go commit some crime for 16 years.
Yeah, he's going to do some strangling.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, actually. Because back to the present, where Devin tells Lexi about how an urban legend says that serial killer Charles Lee Ray from the 80s, who was a serial killer from the 80s, was known as the Lakeshore Strangler, even though he didn't strangle much. More of a maimer, or I don't know all the things he said.
Mauler.
Yeah. Which is true. We do definitely see him do more not strangling. Even though, I read that. And he was also then shot next to a good guy doll, and it's believed that he was able to pass his soul in the last second to said good guy doll. Lexi tells him it's not a legend, it's true, and he's coming to kill them. We had Detective Evans interrogating Jake, trying to get him to admit he knows something about the killings.
Hold on. I would like to say that I felt that it was weird because in that last scene, Devin did, after explaining all of that, go, "What? No, you're crazy. Chucky's not real."
I think he was more just trying to bring up this urban legend. I don't know if he thought this urban legend was real. It's kind of a crazy jump to believe it's real.
After your mom tells you about the orange doll.
Yeah, it's fair.
Or orange-haired doll. It's been running around.
But he doesn't know about the running around. He just knows that the doll was at this place, and the doll happens to be at both places. He doesn't know about the, apple. His mom hasn't told him that story, at least from what we know. And that's the only time we ever saw, there's anyone who has any... That's why she definitely thinks Chucky's something. But he wouldn't have known about that, so...
You're right.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with every person who has any bit of logic should for at least a moment go, no, you're crazy. Until they see Chucky in action. Because it's crazy. This whole series is stupid if you think about it in that sense. Like in a real world sense. But it's fun, so who cares? But yeah. So Detective Evans is interrogating Jake, trying to kind of get him to admit that he knows something. She's not saying that, hey, it's you, but, it looks bad, and it seems like he's about to crack when they both run off to investigate a code white that they hear is happening. It's Caroline. Chucky unplugged her life support. She does get plugged back in, so it does seem like she might be saved. Detective Peyton's body is then found, and while everyone else is looking at the body and dealing with, her sister, Caroline almost dying, the episode ends with Chucky flipping off Devin, Lexi, and Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we got three musketeers.
Devin knows for sure that Chucky is real.
Yeah.
Or that's a really good animatronic doll.
That's really weird. Oh, it's like a
weird prank.
It's like was it Dr. whatever? Mr. Cross's character from the last movie. Where he thought, oh yeah, really good animatronics, Andy.
Yeah. I understand.
You should go to the movies. You should be in movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode, this whole show is great. But this episode's also really good. Final thoughts on the two episodes together. I'll throw them together. I think this is kind of these two episodes are kind of the build on the Lexi redemption story. Spoiler: she's gonna get more redeemed as the show even goes on. I know, crazy. But also just. I'll bring it up again when it happens even more, but just huge props to the writing and to Olivia's acting, because they make you hate her at the beginning and you want to hate her, but then they start making you care about her, and that shouldn't be easy. It isn't easy, and they make it work. They make you care about this character that you she's supposed to be the jerk bully character that you want to see die, and they make her not that.
And then they yoink that from right under your feet.
And they make you go, oh, I actually care about Lexi now. And that's huge props to that. Just huge props to everything. I love the aesthetic of this episode, especially. The hospital, once again, huge props to Craig Sandals. I love the way it looks. Chucky's always funny. Brad Dourif is great in it. It's great. I wish I had more, specific things that I think are great about it, but it's great. I love Chucky, period. I mean, I'm wearing a Chucky shirt. There's the Chucky Blu-ray set there. There's a Chucky poster there. I'm surrounded by Chucky. I love Chucky, which is, first off, crazy because I hate Chucky specifically was the one, horror thing I hated as a child, but whatever. That's a whole different discussion I think we had in the first episode. But, yeah, I love the Chucky franchise. I love Don Mancini's work. Personally, I don't really think he made a bad movie in the bunch. I know that's an unpopular opinion, and I'm not going to argue with someone who does dislike the ones that are... Yeah, I get it. I get why people don't like Seed. I do. But I didn't. I liked it. I like everything this man's done with this character. It's great. This show's great. I'm so happy it exists. I'm so happy we have 2 seasons that we're going to cover. There's a 3rd season already been announced to come out later this year.
Woo!
Yeah, that's it. I'm probably going to say this every episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to say it every episode so far. I have a feeling, and it will continue. That it's just such a good show, so well written. Because boy howdy, in those first 2 episodes, do they set you up to hate Lexi, and somehow by the end of episode 4, you're like, all right, no, I have to see this.
You're like, oh, she's part of the 3 Musketeers now. I like these. Cool, these 3 are gonna be the heroes. And you're like, okay, I'm cool with this.
Yeah. Just wow. Yeah, I'm so ready to see where this story ends up. Yeah, I'm just excited.
That's fair. But yeah. If you like this podcast, first, before I do that, I tell you that next week we're talking about episodes 5 and 6. It's obvious at this point. We're going through this season.
2 episodes at a time.
Yeah, 2 episodes at a time. Episodes 5 and 6. Still didn't look them up. Maybe for the last 2 I'll look them up. The names of them. Maybe for season 2 I'll do it. I don't know.
Yeah, for the season 1 finale.
Yeah. But yeah. Next week we'll be covering those. If you like this podcast, 5-star review on all those podcast apps, specifically if there's Spotify, Apple, and Google. I feel like we're on a 4th one that randomly we get put on because of Spotify. I think it's one of those things I don't remember which one it is, but there's some random one where it's oh, we're on 4 apps? Okay, cool, whatever. But yeah, if you're on any of those, leave a 5-star review. Tell us how you think about it. Yeah. Talk to us. If you're a person out there and you listen to this podcast, let us know. Let us know your thoughts. Tell us your favorite episode. Tell us your least favorite episode. Tell us how you hate the podcast since, Isaiah or other Chris left. I understand. I respect that.
No, don't tell me.
But don't tell me that. Actually, I really think the podcast is just as good without them, even though they were great.
Yeah, they were wonderful additions.
Yeah, we will welcome either of them back if that day ever comes. But yeah, YouTube.com/@HorrorBoys if you want to see a video version of this podcast. If you want to see our pretty little faces, my bald old head over here. But yeah, also if you want to support us directly, patreon.com/@horror. Nope, not at. Patreon.com/HorrorBoys.
There we go.
Yeah, I've been Austin, joined by Chris, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.